Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Scott?
Lionel.
Scott!
The evil overlord.
The wonder from Ames, Iowa.
Yes, not Colorado. Ames, Iowa.
Yeah, but you're an integral part of Iowa Scaled Engineering.
Well, I like to think so. My partners might think differently, though.
But they're based in Colorado. Iowa Scaled Engineering is based in Colorado. I always can. I'm just terrified they're going to move to like Tennessee or something, and then they'll become Colorado Scaled Engineering, and then I won't be able to keep up.
Could happen.
Yeah.
No guarantees.
Hey, did you ever get a hold of that young fella I told you about, Andrew? I cannot pronounce, or Aaron. He owns Apogee Locomotive Works.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think I got a hold of him. I might have looked up. Does he have a website?
He does. Apogee Locomotive Works.
Yeah, I can't remember if I did.
Anyways, he lives just down the road. And what's the next town down the road from you? Yeah, he lives down there, and he's big into 3D printing.
Oh, yes, I remember now. Apogee. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, look that up, would you? Maybe just send him a note or something.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Because he's a young guy, and I thought you'd be the perfect guy to at least make contact with him. And
oh, yeah, here he is. Oh, yeah, look at that. Apogee Locomotive Works. He's got some pretty funky-looking locomotives there. That's cool.
Yeah, he's very funky, and he's way into the 3D printing, and I know you're excited about 3D printing, and I know you're excited about the hobby, and I know you're would be very welcoming to any young fella that's looking for people to connect with. So
absolutely, yeah. I'm more excited about the hobby now than ever. You know, it's as Ken Patterson says, it's the world's greatest hobby, you know. So.
I literally think it's turning into that. Like, I think he's ahead of his time, but we're all so excited about how, you and I are a perfect example. I've said this about dozens of people. You and I probably never would have met and struck up a friendship had it not been for social media. It's just the coolest thing. It's just absolutely the coolest thing. Which brings me to the reason we're here. Because while we need to do have another podcast featuring our very own Scott Thornton, super fan number
32, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. How's life? How is Scott's life these days? Are you? I hear you've been busy with a big project with MRN News.
Yes. Yeah, I'm working on some projects for Tony, so that's new and exciting and fun because I'm passionate about everything railroad related, and he gave me an opportunity. Tony's a great guy, and I took it. So, I'm a graphic designer by profession, and so is our guest later that we're going to be talking to. Also a graphic designer, so we have that in common. But I was looking for opportunities out in the hobby space to apply my skills. I've done a lot of what a lot of people refer to as editorial design, which is just a fancy way of saying magazine design. And so I reached out to Tony, and he had some projects not related to the magazine, but he had some projects that he needed help on. So I'm helping him out. And like I said, he's a great guy, and it's a good company. So I'm having fun.
Tony is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being. And I wish we could all be as caring and giving as Tony is.
Yes. Tony is all that for sure.
He is all that and some more. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we ended up, our guest just ended up staying in the green room the whole time, and you and I just talked for the whole hour and a half, and we never even got around to, and we could say at the end, "Oh, we're sorry. Tonight we were going to have Bernard Hallen on, or I don't even know, is it Helen or Hallen?
he'll have to clarify that once we bring him in.
Yeah, but it'd be cool if we got to the end of the show and say, "Oh, we're going to have Bernard Hallen on tonight," but we ran out of time because Scott was so interesting. So hopefully we'll get him on next week.
Yeah, it's like Johnny Carson, how they used to do on the Johnny Carson show. Sorry, we didn't have time for you, but
yeah,
but those guests who got stiffed still walked away with a nice big fat paycheck. So
yeah, exactly. And if you were a bigger star, we would have got you on. But you're not. But that's not what we're going to do. So tonight we are going to talk to, the reason I thought you'd be perfect to help me co-host this particular episode is because we're going to talk to a fella named Bernard. It's either Helen or Hallen. We'll have to ask because it's Hellen. And is it Bernard?
It is Bernard, yeah.
Do you think he goes by Bernie or Bernard?
I think, I don't know, but I would guess he goes by Bernard, not Bernie.
Maybe we ought to just call him like John Jones or something. We can forget about this whole Bernard Hallen thing and just move on to a whole different name.
Well, you're good at coming up with nicknames, so.
Well, look at you. You've been around the AML network for a while now, and everybody knows you as Dead Weight.
Dead Weight. Yes, I'll take that moniker because I can take it.
There you go. So let's get Bernie. Come on in here, buddy, from the green room.
Come on in, Bernie.
Hello. Oh, wow. I was really enjoying those lemon garlic butter shrimp that you've got in there. Those are delicious.
You didn't have any of the green ones, did you?
No, just the beautiful sautéed ones. They were wonderful.
Because I thought the green ones were mint flavored, but it turned apparently they were just bad.
I think it was cilantro.
Yeah.
If you're going to use big words, we can't go on.
Yeah, Lionel's not a big word kind of guy.
No. I have a vocabulary of about 27 words, so try to keep it simple.
Maybe it was parsley.
Yeah, go with parsley.
Do you know, though green is, when you're talking lobsters, green is a delicacy. There's some organ in the lobster that once it's boiled, it turns green. And I learned this one time when I was, my wife and we traveled to Maine, and we went to what they call a lobster pound. And you go in there, people are just horking down lobsters left and right. And we overheard one of the waitresses telling some other Midwesterners how to eat their lobster. And she was going on and on about how, this green organ is a delicacy, and of course everyone at the table was turning green. Yeah. I'm not going to eat anything that's green. Comes out of a lobster. Forget it.
Yeah. Now, was that the time you traveled to Toronto and you didn't bother to call me?
No, that was a bad mistake. I'll never make that mistake again. Oh boy. Next time I'm in Toronto, the first phone call is going to be to you.
All right, cool. And we'll hook up with first we have is it Bernard or Bernie?
It's Bernard.
All right. And is it Hallen or Helen?
Helen.
All right, so it's Bernard Hallen.
You got it.
Can I call you Steve?
You can.
Call him Steve. Oh my goodness.
What if I had said no?
Well, we'd probably go on talking about seafood, I guess.
Okay, yeah. We can move on to other crustaceans.
Yeah. I guess we'd find out how good I was at ignoring you, I suppose. So I'm kind of excited to talk to you, Bernard, because I first discovered MiniPrints through our very own Scott Thornton here, who, when we were interviewing him, we were interviewing you, Scott, about creating your river scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started talking about the pelicans or something you got from MiniPrints.
Yes, they were. MiniPrints produces just incredibly detailed. You'd have to call them micro 3D prints because Bernard gets down into the nitty gritty of the 1 millimeter realm. Tiny stuff. But I wanted some. Well, I forget how I ran across his. I think one of my other modeling friends, Jason Clockey, told me about MiniPrints, and then I quickly zipped over there, and I saw what Bernard was producing, and I thought, this is so cool. Well, first of all, because most of the 3D prints that people are producing are more square, more rectilinear, not organic, like you see with like human figures or animals or things like that. And so when I saw what Bernard was producing, it was perfect because, like you said, Lionel, I was right in the midst of developing my signature scene on my layout, the Rock River scene. And I wanted to feature some birds and perhaps other wildlife around the river. And Bernard had these awesome looking pelicans, and pelicans are a type of bird that is very prevalent in the Mississippi Valley, all along the Mississippi River. And the Rock River is a tributary of the Mississippi, so it worked perfect. So I bought some, and I was totally impressed. And since that time, as Bernard knows, I've placed several other orders. So I've got MiniPrints all along my layout right now. So,
and of those 27 words that are in my vocabulary, Scott, not one of them is rectilinear.
I know, that's a design term. I did that. I did that for Bernard's benefit because he would understand rectilinear.
Once I lived by those words.
Yes.
Yep. I used to have a rectilinear, the 2-door hatchback.
Or you had a medical procedure.
Yeah, I had
you had the rectilinear. Oh, yeah. That's painful.
Yeah. So, okay, so you found, and then I heard of, after that, I heard of MiniPrints again from the NMRAX, which is that great program that Gordy Robinson and Gert Speedmuller and Marty Jenkins and Brad Anderson, all those guys, they run that. And you did a clinic for them, didn't you, Bernard?
I did, on painting my 3D printed MiniPrints.
And when did you do that?
I would have been in the summer, probably July, I would guess.
Okay. And
it was my first ever clinic. It was a lot of fun.
Really? Okay. And how long have you been in the hobby? Or how many years has MiniPrints been running?
MiniPrints started almost exactly a year ago. It'll be 1 year on April 1st.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's pretty substantial growth there.
Yeah. Like you've kind of taken the world by storm, unless we were actually recording this in March of 2021. And so you've actually been in business less than a year, and you've kind of taken the world by storm.
It's grown more than I ever imagined. I never even set out to start a business. It's all by accident.
So what did you do? Was this because of COVID? Was it just because you were already doing 3D? Like how did the business all of a sudden come to be?
I have to interrupt here because this is Bernard's famous beaver story, right, Bernard?
It is, and it's a cautionary tale. No pun intended.
What are we 13 minutes in here? And already, Scott, you got to go down that road?
Down the beaver story road?
Yeah. You're talking about Canada's national isn't the beaver Canada's national animal or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay. I understand you. I'm sorry I got off track there. I was thinking of something else. All right, go ahead, Bernard.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you said it, not me. You were the one.
I did. Yeah. We don't want people's minds to run wild here, so we better let Bernard, tell his story.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I should.
Okay. After that introduction.
I think we better wait till 26 minutes because 13 minutes is just that's too soon.
That's
too
soon. 13's a bad number too.
Somebody says to me, "Oh, if you're going to interview Bernard, have Scott on. Have Scott Thornton on. That'll work out well." Oh my
God! Big mistake.
Oh dear. Thank you and good night.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
What is the shortest ever?
Interview. Yeah, there you go. So, all right. So somehow there's a story involving beavers, which are an animal that is very common in Canada, and it's on the side of CP locomotives, I believe, a lot of them.
It is.
All right. So what's your beaver story?
Well, I needed one, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't find one anywhere. About 5 years ago, I was building a signature scene for my layout. my HO scale layout, and I wanted to create a beaver lodge in a beaver pond. And I looked high and low, and I Googled and searched for all the manufacturers that would have scale animals. And believe it or not, no one made a beaver. I found moose, I found bears, I found deer, I found a whole bunch of, pretty horrible looking, disfigured plastic animals.
Horrible looking disfigured.
Nightmares.
Yeah. Nightmares on wheels. But I could not find a beaver, which amazed me because, as you said, it built the country. There's certain parts of Canada where I'm from where you see them everywhere, and it surprised me, and it was something I needed. So I being I guess a recovering graphic designer now, I made one and sent it off to a then online service bureau, and 2 to 3 weeks later my ridiculously expensive beaver arrived, and I was able to complete the scene on my layout. But that all changed about a year ago when I bought my first resin printer and then really started to get addicted.
And why did you what is the urge? I mean, Scott, I know you've bought a 3D printer and lots of what is the urge to buy these 3D printers? Is it just because isn't there a lot to learn? Like, don't you have to learn basically how to do CAD and draw things and stuff like that?
Yes, you do. Yeah. But there are programs out there that are not that complicated. For example, there's a program by Autodesk called Tinkercad, and it's an online very condensed version of their more upgradable programs, and it's easy to understand. So it's easy for someone to get into the CAD space and build simple forms, and then once you start to learn that, then you can take those simple forms and try your hand at printing them out on a resin printer. But there's also a lot of resources out there. The ever-present YouTube is a great place to go to learn some of the early mistakes that people using 3D printers or specifically resin printers have made, and then you can quickly learn what not to do and try your hand at printing.
And I don't know whether you've noticed this, Scott, but certainly it's something that has happened to me, is it very quickly becomes a hobby unto itself.
Exactly. Yes, I was warned by my Iowa Scaled engineering friends, Michael and Nathan, that 3D printing, because they do 3D printing for other products that they produce, as well as to support the Protothrottle, but they warned me that, just like you said, Bernard, that it would become a hobby unto itself and it would become very addicting. And the thing that I discovered is the addicting part is because you're sitting at your desk thinking about the layout, or you're at the layout working on something, and you think, I need this, just like you needed a beaver for your signature scene, Bernard. And then you can just go to the computer and fairly quickly render it up. There you go. You got your design, and then you can try and print it. And I say try and print it because when you print it, there is a learning curve, and it is somewhat of an adventure. You tend to have failed prints, which we can talk more about in a little bit, but rendering it up is so fun because you can just quickly get what you need without having to go searching amongst all the manufacturers in the hope that you find it. So.
And is the fact that both you guys have a background in graphic design, is that a plus? Is that a plus for you?
Well, I'm not sure. What do you think, Bernard?
I think so. I mean, certainly, I've spent the last 30 years staring at a computer screen. Mm-hmm. So, it's not intimidating. I think, there's the fun part and the not fun part of designing. The fun part is, as Scott has mentioned, seeing it come alive on screen. But, like many things, it's sort of similar to the architect that designs a beautiful glass building, and then the builder takes a look at the plans and says, yeah, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to stand. I mean, the challenge isn't necessarily coming up with the design. It's in the nuts and bolts of getting the design to print properly. And that's, I
Mhm.
think, that's the sort of the dark side of 3D printing. That's the frustrating part.
Mhm.
So you printed, so you made some beavers for. You couldn't have started out with ducks or something. I mean, it would have been so much easier to do the interview.
Yeah, I know.
So
It's you can't pick something easy though. You got to start with the challenge.
right, yeah. It's just you kind of keep leading us down that road, and we got to get away from the beavers. But so you printed some beavers and you gave them to some friends.
Yep.
And then so this is all. And so this is all happening. Like, did you just kind of push your other business aside, the business that your full-time job aside, or what happened?
Well, yeah, it's the old sort of serendipity. Sorry, another big word there.
Yeah.
But it just, it was chance. It happened that I started to print these beavers and give them away to friends just as COVID hit. So I had my own small business that was in marketing. And as my marketing clients dried up and as that business sort of wrapped up and was a victim of COVID,
Mhm.
suddenly I started selling 3D printed items. So it was a natural transition. And like many other people, I found myself needing to pivot. There needed to be food on the table and locomotives don't buy themselves. So it was one of those happy coincidences where I was able to take a passion and a hobby and turn it into a business.
So now my favorite question for Tim Warris and is like, who did you sell the first one to? Because Clark Kooning claims that he was the first person to buy one of Tim Warris's Fast Tracks fixtures, and Tim doesn't necessarily dispute that. So do you remember who the first person was that you actually sold one of your creations to?
I don't. I'd have to go back and look. I remember the first people I gave it away to, but the first order, I remember I listed on Facebook saying, HO scale beavers. So I'd have to go back and figure out who the early. Actually, I'd make it up if I said a name.
And so that's how you did it? You just put, how did you start selling them? Let's go
Facebook.
that way.
Facebook just posted a scene of the Beaver Lodge on Facebook and said, anyone interested in this? And it wasn't even, it was a question. And I was amazed by the response. It was, hey, I made this. Does anyone want one? And all of a sudden it was like, yeah, I'll take 3. I'll take 5. I'll take 7.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah. It was caught me completely by surprise.
And did you have a price on this this posting on Facebook?
Yeah, I think I probably made up something too low. It was probably a couple bucks or something.
Right.
It was the novelty, right? It was like, hey, I made something, and I felt there was a need for it out there, so I just wanted to share it with other people who wanted to create that scene.
Right.
So it wasn't about the money. It was just about
at that point, yeah, and then
covering costs.
Yeah, and then how quickly? Because I mean, really, you've been in business less than a year, and I think the other day you were telling me you've had almost 800 orders.
Yeah,
and
750 orders in the first year.
And you have a beautiful website. Were you able to construct the website yourself?
Yeah, so I mean that's another area where being a recovering graphic designer is really helpful. It was really important for me to create a brand. That's what I do for my clients. So it's something that I felt strongly about. I wanted it to be something that people could have fun with, and I wanted people to recognize the name. So coming up with the name, doing the branding, doing the website, that's part of the fun part for me.
Okay, and how long was it before you had your website up?
Not long, maybe a month or two.
Okay, so say
a month or two in.
Right, so say by the end of April, last May of 2020, you had a website and you were taking orders that way.
Yeah, something like that.
It's great for graphic designers to have deadlines. So suddenly Bernard had a deadline, and it's since he's self-employed, it's very motivating. Get her done, right, Bernard?
Yeah, and I mean the other thing too is when there's nothing else to do, it becomes a passion project, and if it's fun, it grew quickly because people started asking me for things. So
that is. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, that reminds me. That's so encouraging, but it also reminds me of our friend JT Burke, who runs Scale Sound Systems, because JT uh, produces these incredible speakers, for steam and diesel, and he did the same thing, exact same approach. He started producing speakers for his own use. He's an audio engineer, and before he knew it, he had this thriving business where he could hardly keep up because the demand was so high. And that is so cool. Lionel, again, you're talking about social media. Here, Bernard posts on Facebook, boom, a business is born because he hit a perfect niche.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is just another example. I mean, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, but this is just another example of the hobby's going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo, because all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, we can all connect with each other. And Bernard has now gone from one career to another career. And, and it's because of the accessibility. I mean, have you done any other than you have your website, NMRAX clinic, and have you done any other sort of advertising or anything, Bernard?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my goal is to be everywhere. I mean, I'd love to, I'd love when people think of, HO scale figures, think of MiniPrints, or certainly if they're looking for something unique, different, small, hard to find, I'd like to be thought of for those types of items. So I just started advertising recently in Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine, MRH, because a good friend of mine advertises in there, has a business, and I've been able to talk to him and pick his brain as to what works for his business. So, talking to other, small model railroad manufacturers has been very helpful, and that was recommended to me. So I've done that.
Let's mention your friend and the name of his business.
My friend is Nick, and he owns ITLA, which is scale model laser cut.
Yeah, they make spectacular.
Awesome.
He's a great guy. We've actually collaborated on a number of projects.
Okay.
And he's not too far from me here in Toronto. He's just about an hour west of us. And Nick's a great guy, and I love promoting ITLA scale models. Mm-hmm. And we chat. We chat about what works and what doesn't work, and what's happening in the hobby.
Nick hit a niche there too, because those fronts, those industrial fronts that he produces are just so unique, and he's made it modular, and so there's a lot of variety for modelers. A lot of people complain, well, if you go out and you buy a kit, a Walthers kit, it looks like everyone else's. Well, he's hit it where you can really produce your own custom environment with his kits, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was also important. I like the craftsman quality. I mean, I always felt at the very beginning that I wanted MiniPrints to be unique. I didn't want to produce, another, battery compartment or steam whistle or air conditioning vent. I wanted it to be something that was a little bit different and hard to find. I didn't want to duplicate what was out there. And I wanted it to be aimed at the craftsman quality market. I wanted it to be people who, weren't afraid to paint it or tinker. I wanted it to be sort of specialized.
Well, and the beauty of your product, Bernard, is that it wasn't there was a great need in the hobby for what you're producing. And frankly, in the 3D space, designing accurate organic shapes is challenging, or at least it's intimidating to me. And so someone like yourself who's come along and nailed that, where you're producing those organic shapes for birds and animals, and now you're getting into the human figure too with some of your train crews. That was a need, a real need in the hobby, and so that's awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, like the train crew, those figures, I really like those. They're great. They're I mean, so how do you, without giving away secrets or anything like that, although we don't want to leave the story of because it's really, MiniPrints has just been one of those things where all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, you got to talk to the MiniPrints guy. And, it's like, and I think NMRX was the kind of, Scott and NMRX steered me towards it. So did you just keep getting requests for different items and you just kept adding them to the list sort of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say that everything on the website has been added because it's either something I wanted personally or people asked me specifically for it. So, if it started with the beaver, then the second thing I added were the hounds, and I wanted a hound on my layout. And it went from there. And then someone said, hey, can you make me a skunk? Or, I'd really like a Labrador retriever, or, it literally, it's, I can't find one item on there that wasn't either a specific request or something that I myself wanted.
Now, did someone request the pooping dog?
Yes. Yes, they did.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And I get ideas every day, every single day. What about this? What about that? And some of them are not for broadcast. Some of them, some of them will not be mentioned on air. Some of them are like, wow, I can't believe I didn't think of that. What a great idea.
So for the ones that you cannot mention, those demand a 300% increase in, the cost, correct?
No, not on brand. Not on brand.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're delving into some areas that are a little risque. So, there's an upcharge. Come on.
Let's put it this way. If it exists in the real world, chances are somebody wants it for their layout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed. I mean, some of the requests have been absolutely brilliant, and some of them have been quite odd.
Yeah, and to your credit, I've noticed you've been very responsive to customer requests. Like if someone requests something, you produce it with an incredible turnaround time. A lot of other manufacturers, you'd have to wait months, and you turn it around quickly.
Well, unfortunately, that is the COVID dividend. I mean, I'm in Toronto and we've been in lockdown for quite a while and it's winter. So there really isn't a lot to do other than sit at the computer and design.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all out and about and, necessity.
But still, I think that's part of running a business. I think that's, Scott would probably agree with me. I mean, that's fine that you have time, but you kind of remind me of Tim Warris in that, I'm just, he's a great friend of mine. And I mean, I just marvel at the ingenuity of Tim Warris. And it seems like you're kind of one of those kind of folks. It's like, you've jumped onto this and you love the product you're producing. And you must be, you're doing it's just a fabulous job. I mean, to think of it, that's one of the things I like about the podcast. Is, I continually discover, and here's another business. I mean, Bernard, it's going to be great to talk to you on and off over the years about, which direction you're going and what you've discovered, because it's a business that basically started from the seed of an idea in your head and boom, here you are a year later and you got all kinds of stuff going on.
And I'm a modeler. I think that's the other part of it is I see that not a lot, but some model railroad businesses or some businesses in the model railroad space aren't modelers first. And, being a modeler, and I have, an entire basement layout, really, it informs the way I approach the manufacturing and the business.
Okay. How so? Like, how would that maybe?
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I model the Quebec Gatineau, which is a Genesee and Wyoming short line from Montreal to Quebec City, and I focused in on the port of Trois-Rivières. So I model modern freight operations. So when I go out and I look for figures, I see a lot of standard European figures. I see a lot of figures of guys wearing, the red checkered scarf and the blue jean overalls that look like they jumped out of 1954.
Right.
But I didn't see a lot of modern day freight crews. guys doing switching.
Right.
So there's an example of, being in the hobby, seeing what I needed and recognizing that there are a heck of a lot of people out there modeling modern day.
Great.
As I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I see what you're saying exactly. Yeah. And then when pigs fly. I'm just scrolling through the page. I love the moose. I think that now do you paint any of these or do you send them unpainted?
Right now, they're all sent unpainted, and that's intentional for a couple reasons. Once again, with the whole craftsman quality, I want people to get their hands dirty, and I want people to sort of view this as they would the same as raw lumber, from Mount Albert, or turnouts. I mean, these are materials that they can incorporate into their scene and work with. They're not finished products; they're building materials. But everybody's going to interpret the painting differently. So I might paint it one way, and you can, there are a lot of better painters out there than I am. So I want people to have fun with it, and I want people to be able to interpret it the way they want. That's one answer. The other answer is painting is so time consuming that there's just no way to make money painting figures. That's the other thing.
Right. Have you considered? Now, I've had this discussion with our buddy Rob Arsenault, who I got to get back on the podcast, and he's he does commercial weathering of locomotives, and we'll talk about, like, some people just don't have the time to do the painting, or they'd much rather pay. Like, have you considered, like, okay, this is what I feel like it. If I had a bull moose that's painted, for me to do it, it's going to cost X number of dollars.
My 15-year-old son is a far better painter than I am.
Okay.
He paints little, Dungeon and Dragon miniatures and war game figures. He's an incredible painter, and I keep trying to convince him to start the pre-painted division of MiniPrints.
Right.
And I keep promising him, 25 cents a figure, or whatever the rate he wants to offer painted figures, but not yet.
Right. So for the foreseeable future, it'll always be unpainted.
For the foreseeable future, it is unpainted. The other thing too is it's not hard. And right up on my website, I've got a clinic. So
okay.
I guess the first question I have is, why don't you want to paint it? And are you scared of painting it? And if you break it, I'll send you another one for free. So don't worry about that. Just get your hands dirty. Try it. It's not hard.
Right.
It's part of the fun.
Is it hard to break a dog that's pooping?
The tail.
Okay. Oh, the tail. All right.
Yeah. Potentially.
So now you say up on your website, there's someplace there's a clinic about how to do it. Where would somebody find that on your website?
If you click on contact, I think. Let me check. Yeah, if you click on contact on the website, you'll see some FAQs.
Oh, okay.
And if you look at FAQ number 6, it says, do the figures come painted? How do you suggest painting the figures?
Okay.
And there is a link to the painting clinic, and that's the one that I actually did for the NMRAX.
Okay.
Right up there. And if people don't want to do that, it's simple. It's just miniprints.ca/clinic.
All right. Now, you've listened to a few of the podcasts.
A few.
And Scott, you've listened to a few of the podcasts.
Many. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're both well aware of the fact that I can be at the best of times, I can be annoying and kind of opinionated.
Never.
I think you should put on across the navigation bar, you should put clinic right there. And so people can just go to clinic and boom, click on that.
You're right. I agree with you.
Okay. Wow. You hear that, Scott? He agrees with me.
I know. That's awesome.
How about that?
It's on the to-do list.
Okay. So I got a question for you, Bernard.
Yes.
So you talk about you're very much into the fine scale of model railroading, fine scale modeling, which I think is becoming more and more popular, actually, as more and more people have access to information and how to do things. But what I don't understand necessarily, and I'm kind of interested to find out, is what is fine scale in 3D printing? Like, doesn't everybody's print come out the same?
For me, it's a couple things. It's the philosophy that it's a raw material. It's not done, so you have to get your hands dirty. So just as you would assemble a kit, you paint the minifigures. So it's not, off the shelf, no work involved. That's one thing. I think that it also is that it's a little bit specialized. It's a bit of the unique. So it's not the standard plastic kit. It's perhaps, something that's a little bit more handcrafted. It probably takes, every print probably takes like at least an hour to come out, because you're printing it and then you're snipping it. And these things are not mass produced. Each one, unfortunately, takes quite a bit of hand time to actually build. So it's not like there's a mold somewhere and I'm popping them out of a mold. So I think it's a handcrafted element of it. It's the fact that you have to work with it and paint it, and the fact that it's a little bit specialized, that it's not just run-of-the-mill mass produced, same as everything else.
I was just trying to think of an example because I have a question for both of you, and I was trying to think of something that's I don't see on your page. And so here's my, I think this, I don't know if you've had, but in Canada anyways, Scott, and it's probably the same in south of the border. I think I've seen them near my milk crates. The square crates that milk comes in. It's very, you go to Costco and all their milk is in these square crates.
Yep.
That would be a great thing because there's milk crates everywhere. However, so if you and Scott both decided to create a milk crate, are they both going to come out the same, or in the process, is there some in that process? Can somebody do a milk crate more detailed or exact than the next fellow?
I would say yes. I mean, you've got 3D printers producing similar things, and yeah, it's all in how they approach, how they put it together in their CAD program. I've thought a lot about that, just producing my own models, because I model in HO, and even in HO, you can have a lot of detail, or you don't have to have a lot of detail. And if you put too much detail in it, it's almost like wasted time, because in the grand scheme of things, after you produce the 3D print and paint it, put it on the layout, it's the overall impression that people notice. They don't necessarily get down to, do you have all the bolts and screws and all those things in place. It's more of the overall impression. And I don't know what you think about that, Bernard, but because I've seen, like with MiniPrints, the detail's all there, because by nature, those objects are going to be looked at very closely. Other 3D prints on a layout might not necessarily be looked at that closely. And if they are, no big deal if there isn't a lot of detail, in my opinion. But I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think for me, one of the time-consuming parts is finishing it. So I don't send the MiniPrints out, attached to, all the support structure. I spend a lot of time sort of cleaning it up so that when it goes out the door, it looks presentable. So
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of, what might differentiate, printed part A from printed part B is also, I don't want to send anything out the door that I wouldn't put on my own layout. So I want to make sure that if it's going out, with the MiniPrint name on it, that I think it's my best work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the time and energy that you invest in sort of making sure that it looks decent when it goes out the door. That's important.
Right.
I mean, I think that if I had a file and you had a file and we both printed it on different printers, there might be some noticeable difference, but not anything that anyone would truly notice.
But is it in the original design? Like, could Scott say, okay, I'm going to build a milk crate, but I don't really care that it looks super detailed. I just want the general. Whereas one guy could print a milk crate that's super detailed, looks exactly like a milk crate, whereas another guy might just, leave out half the detail. And yeah, it's a milk crate, but it's not.
Look, Lionel, if you want a milk crate, just ask for one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's focused on milk crates. Well, that's a good question though, because if you look on like a commercial site like Shapeways, they have areas where you can go where you can see all the different offerings from different designers who've put things together, and you can do a search and you can search for the same type of item like a milk crate, and you might get some hits where one designer has a lot more detail than another designer, but he might also have a different price point. So it's up to you as the person looking for the item, how much detail you want in something. Again, I think with MiniPrints, just because of the nature of what Bernard's producing, he almost has to provide a lot of detail because people are going to look very closely at these small micro prints, because that's how they're produced. That's their nature. They're tiny, and so you want as much detail as you can get into those. Like with my pelicans, there was a lot of detail. In fact, when you look closely at the model, like you could see a defined edge on where the beak meets the head of the pelican. Well, from a distance, you're not going to notice that. But when I'm painting them, I'm going to notice it. And I'm going to say, hey, that's a really good quality print. And that's why I want to buy MiniPrints versus it not being there. And then when you're painting them, you're thinking, okay, this is okay. It's not, doesn't have all those little details. So the little details make a value difference when you're purchasing something.
Well, and I think too, Lionel, just not to sort of talk too much about the whole milk crate thing. However, I would say that it's similar to trees, right? They're foreground trees, they're hero trees, they're background trees. You can buy trees that are in bulk, that are fantastic. You buy 1,000 of them for $1, and they go on the back of your layout. And then you can buy trees that are like $50 a tree, and they're the hero tree that go right in the foreground. So I'm sure that there's a market for everything, and I'm sure that people produce all sorts of milk crates.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that's kind of where I was headed. Like you were talking about. I think one of the appeals. I think what I'm trying to understand is that one of the appeals of MiniPrints is the quality of detail, or the attention to detail. Just like Scott said with the pelicans, it's like it makes it. They're excited. It's an exciting product to buy because, as Scott says, the attention to detail of the exact item is there, and so it even, like Scott says, even though from 3 feet or 5 feet away you're not going to see the detail, he's going to know it's there. And because Scott is there's a lot of people in the hobby, a lot of people. I think this is where the hobby is going to grow the most, personally, is in the fine scale modeling, and there's a lot of people that really, really enjoy trying to replicate a scene as close to exact as they can, and to do that they need fine scale items to do that with. So
absolutely, and also I think, well, two thoughts. One, I'm sort of always challenging myself to see what the smallest thing I can produce is that actually looks half decent. So that's just kind of a personal fun challenge. It's like, can you print a scale, HO scale
woodpecker
or crab or lobster and actually have it look decent and be, within the realm of, scale, within a reasonable, reality. So that's kind of a personal fun challenge. If you're named MiniPrints, it's kind of fun to see how mini the prints can get.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just fun, but in terms of detail, I mean, I see a lot of people starting to come up with like dioramas, and I see a lot of people doing modules, as people move into more and more condos and apartments, as real estate gets more and more pricey, there's a whole trend towards smaller layouts. And if you've got, a module that's 2 feet by 4 feet, you can afford to spend the time and the money on really making it come alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's where the hobby's going to go. I mean, I was talking to a fella, our buddy Bill Sampson, who is the official, I'm probably would have to say he's the official graphic artist of the AML network, only because he's the guy that created Fred the Sock. But he has this beautiful, like 16-foot shelf layout on 2 walls in a spare bedroom, and I mean it's like 2 feet wide and 16 feet long, and in an L shape, and it's beautiful. And I'm looking at it thinking, man, there's a ton of stuff you could do just in a space like that. And I think that's going to be the direction. And things like MiniPrints is, it's all gonna. That's where the hobby is really going to grow. Now, Scott, I want to apologize if I can in advance for something. Will you accept my apology?
You don't even need to apologize, because if I take a hit, I take it for the team. It's no big deal.
No, I understand that. I understand that, and I always appreciate that. But you were talking about a minute ago when you were talking, I wanted to say this to you, Bernard. So how many prints do you think you'll make?
How many?
Yeah, that's an inside joke with our proto throttle.
Okay.
How many do you think you'll sell?
No, I didn't say how many. I said how many prints.
Oh, how many? Oh, that's perfect. Perfect.
Ouch.
Yes. It's
Ouch.
awesome. That's what makes AML such a valuable podcast asset. Is the host.
So now I'm going to ask you, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, Bernard. And as with anybody that's in the manufacturing end of the hobby, I don't expect you to answer any questions you're not comfortable answering. But I'm interested in the history of MiniPrints, and what was the first printer you bought, and how did you know which printer to buy?
Facebook. So I was following a group on Facebook called 3D Printing for Model Trains, or something around that. I think it's something, something like that.
I think you have that. I think you have that on your website. 3D
I
printing.
think I do.
Yeah, for model trains. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started to see the type of quality that people were getting off of these relatively inexpensive resin printers, and I'd always sort of dreamt about a 3D printer. 5-6 years ago, I looked at one, and it was probably $10,000 in the size of a small subcompact car, and the quality was terrible. And when I started to see, these pictures coming up on this Facebook group, I was looking at how much better the quality had gotten over the last 5 years, how the price point had dropped, like everything else, like big screen TVs or, everything that you look at, it goes from unaffordable to affordable and crappy to fantastic. And I started to see what was doable. And I thought, okay, for $350, you can get something that, is amazing. So my first printer was an Elegoo, and there are all sorts of great brands out there. So Anycubic is a popular brand, Frozen is a popular brand, but I chose an Elegoo Mars, and I'm still producing on that machine, and I'm blown away by the quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Elegoo Mars, yeah.
Yeah. And I now have 3 Mars, and they came out with a bigger machine, which of course they called a Saturn.
All right.
Cool. And I love them. I love them. They're great.
What will the bigger machine do?
Make bigger prints or more smaller prints.
Okay, so can you make more than one item at a time?
Oh, yeah. I just printed on the big one. I just printed some canoes, and I think I fit 30 canoes on a single plate, build plate.
Right. Wow. 30.
So, yeah. And well, I have a MiniPrints of the Month club, so I have a little box that I send out every month. Yeah. So this month, spoiler alert, this month everyone's getting a canoe, and believe it or not, 2 HO scale laser cut paddles, real birch paddles by Nick at ITLA, and these are the smallest things you've ever seen.
Wow. Real
birch, real wood paddles.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So how much does it cost to belong to the MiniPrints of the Month Club?
The MiniPrints of the Month Club is on the website, and you can join for $24.99 US per month. And every month I send you a selection of, it's HO scale only for now. And every month I produce a selection of sort of special fun, limited edition type HO scale prints and put them together in a box and send it out to subscribers. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
So, do you mind if I ask you how many subscribers you have in the month of the Mini Print of the Month Club?
I'm actually up to 33, which is why I just printed 30 canoes.
That's awesome.
So somewhere I need to fit another 3 on.
Yeah. So how many canoes would you make with the smaller printers?
The big printer has about 3 times the capacity of a small printer.
So a small one would make 10 canoes.
Yeah, it depends how I lay them out and how big the canoes are. But if you want to turn your camera on, I'll show you what the canoe looks like.
All right. I will. But you do remember this is audio only, right?
Well, I know. Then we can describe it to people.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I don't need to see Scott, do I?
It's the magic. That's all I can see is Scott right now. Hang on. Let me turn mine on.
Is this a trick?
Yeah, I painted it up.
Oh, okay. Wow,
look at that. Very cool.
So now, do you send them out painted, or you just painted one?
No, this is my wife actually asked for this one.
If we can describe it to the viewers, like Bernard showing the inside of the canoe, and it has all the seat detail.
Wow.
Everything like that. That's really cool, Bernard.
So and this will become a product at some point. So the Mini Prints of the Month Club is fun because it's kind of my product development. It's the creative outlet. So I get to try stuff out and play with stuff and send it out to the subscribers first. And then if it turns into a product, it goes on the website.
So that's basically though what we're talking about with Mini Prints is the quality of the product, is the detail in the product. That's one of your selling features, is the detail of the product.
It helps to be slightly OCD when it comes to designing these things.
Right. So, Scott, I have a question for you, and a serious question. So, I know you have a 3D printer, and you enjoy it, but you buy product off of Bernard because you don't want to take the time to create that particular item. Is that why? Or
exactly, you got it. Because he already has the skill set. He's already producing it. Plus, I really honestly love supporting cottage industry entrepreneurs because they need support, and especially in these times, with COVID, because just like Bernard mentioned how his design consultancy dried up, so did mine, and I've been a design consultant for 18 years on my own, and COVID basically wiped me out. So,
I did not realize that, Scott. So, I mean, that's something that we need to talk about one day on the podcast as well, because that'd be difficult for you for sure.
Well, it is, but I'm also at a stage in life where I'm right on the cusp of retirement. So my wife and I talked about it, and we thought, well, maybe I should just consider myself semi-retired, which I do. And I've got like Bernard, I've got a entrepreneurial bug. So I've got some things in the works that I'm working on where I may come out with my own little store with 3D printing. It doesn't relate to what MiniPrints is doing because that's his niche, but it's things that, like if I produce something, it has a similar structure like what Bernard's doing, where if I need it for the layout, I produce it, and then heck, I got the design. Why not just produce it for anyone else who might be interested in this item? So I'm thinking about doing something like that. And that's the beauty of 3D printing now. There's all these little cottage industries that are producing models that others may need, but don't have the time or the patience or the equipment. And that's a real benefit.
It's really exciting, Bernard, to talk to you about this because it's pretty exciting to realize this has all taken place now in the last 11, 12 months. I mean,
it's surprising, and I mean, I love it. It's fun. There is a downside, absolutely. I have been downstairs to the 3D printers 5 times a day. I've been downstairs to the layout twice in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it does come at a cost. And one of the things I'm sort of struggling with right now is how do I maintain the passion for the business at the same time as actually having time to model because I want to build my layout, and I have not turned. I made a New Year's resolution 2 Januaries ago that I would spend 15 minutes a day on the layout. I haven't turned it on in 6 months.
Yeah, that is such an important point because Lionel, that's a whole nother podcast right there. Because people who are in the manufacturing end, how do they balance that? I think we talked about this in a previous podcast a while ago. How do you avoid burnout when you're a manufacturer for the hobby that you love? Because it does demand your time. And we only have so much, I would say, mental energy. And if you burn it up producing things for others, you might have the physical ability to go down there, but you just simply can't because your mental energy is gone. And that's something to factor in for sure.
And that's the biggest challenge right now for me is, do I want to grow the company? Do I want MiniPrints to keep going? Do I want it to get bigger? Absolutely. But, oh my God, at what cost?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, are you having trouble? Like, I think you made an excellent point there, Scott. It's not necessarily physical energy. It's the mental energy because you'll start out the day with, I noticed that. I love doing the podcast. I'm 6.5 years in and I don't even see a glimmer of losing interest in it because of all the people I meet and all. I met Bernard now and Bernard and I could have lunch tomorrow because we've made a connection, but he'd buy, of course. But
yeah, of course.
But it's
absolutely, and I'd even have a milk crate with me.
There you go.
Hey, don't be surprised if you get an HO scale milk crate in the mail, Lionel.
Yeah, there you go.
Surprised.
But that's a great. Let's not breeze over this topic because it's because really right now Bernard's kind of a lab project because he's just started in the model railroading industry and he's concerned about, and it's not so much what I started to say, it's not so much physical energy, it's the mental energy. You get up in the morning, you got lots of focus, you got lots of drive, but as the day goes along, you start losing your poof, and really most people work on their layouts and their hobby in the evening hours. And so, you've been making MiniPrints all day. How many prints would you make in a day? I love that. That's just
yeah. I have no clue, and it depends.
Yeah.
Like for example, someone just ordered an O scale moose. Okay, so that's a single item. If somebody ordered 2 orders of N scale ducks, well, that's 24 items.
Right.
So it's a lot easier to make one big moose than it is to make 24 small ducks.
So now when you're making this moose, because on your machine, probably you can get like in the smaller machines, like 4 moose or something, 4 O-scale moose?
No. A small machine would be 1, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. These things are big.
Oh, okay. All right. Somebody ordered an HO scale moose where you could do two in a machine. Would you do 2 and put 1 aside for the next guy that...
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's always, it's always, look, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning about inventory management. I'm learning about sales forecasting. I'm learning about saying no to people who want things. Well, like milk crates,
Yeah.
There's your answer right there. No milk crate for you.
No, it's all about time. So here's an example. Got a great email this morning. Or Facebook message, whatever. And it was someone saying, you know what I really want? I want an HO scale baseball team. I've looked around and all I can do is find kids. I need a baseball team in HO scale. So I'm going, oh yeah, that's pretty interesting. That would be great. So it simply comes down to when. When on the long list of products and ideas does one get around to doing an HO scale baseball team?
Well, plus you have to determine what's the return on my time, because if you produce that team, how many people are going to buy the team?
Exactly.
Probably not that many people. So you've put all these hours, literally hours, into designing each character for a return that just isn't there. You're more than likely not going to do that. on a regular
Well, and
basis.
that's where you have to learn, because the graphic designer in you goes, "Oh, that's so cool! I bet I can do that."
Mm-hmm.
And then so you start to think about it, but then there are 15 orders that need to be fulfilled, and you realize then the business mind kicks in, and you go, "Well, wait a minute, like you said, what's the market demand for that?" So you're constantly juggling.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and in the back of your head, you've always got the Mini Prints of the Month Club to look after.
Which is, I love it. It's a challenge coming up with new stuff every month, but it's the fun part.
So for the Mini Prints of the Month Club, how many prints would they get each month?
You're really focused on the number, aren't you?
No, it's just how many prints. I love that. It's like
how many prints?
Yeah.
How many prints? How many prints? How many? How many?
Yeah.
How many? How many camels?
Yeah.
There's no set number except for I try and include one animal print, one seasonal mini print, and one mystery mini print. And I try and make sure that there's a minimum of $50 worth of value for the $24.99. So I'm constantly, like, for this month, I shouldn't say what people are getting, but it'll broadcast after it goes out. So that's fine. So they're going to get a fishing boat, 2 fishing figures, a canoe, 2 paddles, two swans, 6 ducks, and a heron.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and a herring. That sounded funny. And a herring.
Herring.
Oh, a heron. I thought you said a herring.
Oh, but yeah, I'll throw some fish in too. Why not?
Yeah. Why not?
That's a lot. That's a lot for $24. You could probably cut back on that a bit.
Probably, because I'm running out of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, but it's all about, the business right now is just about having fun and making people happy. That's it.
Okay, so let's talk about.
Wait, Lionel, before you do, I think you came up with Bernard's nickname going forward.
What's that, Mini?
Bernard, how many?
Yeah.
How many?
How many? How many?
How many do you want? How many?
How many watermelons do you want? How many? How many?
How many? In your best Italian accent. How many?
Exactly.
How many?
Every time I'm at the farmers market in Florida now, and I'm gonna be buying oranges or something. The guy's going, how many? How many? I'm gonna be thinking of Bernard and you two. I'm gonna be thinking of Bernard and Scott. And thanks very much, Bernard. Now I try all the time to think of Scott as little as possible, and it's just now you've added another.
This will be a reminder.
Yeah. So I got an interesting topic or another direction to go for a second. So one of the things I struggle with, and I'm interested, Scott, like if you do start some sort of a little model railroad business, it'd be interesting to follow along with you too, because for those of you who don't know Scott personally, you should. What's the best? You have a Facebook page for your railroad. What's your railroad's Facebook page, Scott?
It's the Milan branch. So if you put in facebook.com/Milan, as in Milan, Milan branch, you'll find me.
MILAN.
Right.
For those who have yet to visit the page or don't know Scott, he is one of the most prolific or elegant model railroaders on the planet. I mean, you are.
What?
Yeah.
Careful.
Absolutely. Your stuff is spectacular. Your layout is beautiful. Your stuff is absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of talent, and you're one of them. It's just I mean, I look at your Facebook page and I'm thinking I could do a podcast with him every month. You just have some great ideas. But one of the things I struggle with, and you touched on it, Bernard, and I'm interested in your take on this. One of the things I struggle with is there's just so many people to talk to and so many subjects to cover. Like, I would have thought 6 years later I'd be like running out of stuff. And instead of running out of stuff, it just seems to be like rabbits. It multiplies on itself. And instead of having 10 people to talk to, there's 20 people. And instead of 20, there's 40. And instead of 40, there's 80. And you kind of touched on that, where the list just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and of things to do and jobs to do. So how do you feel like you're going to be able to, like, like your head must be spinning. Here you are a year later, and this business is basically a roaring success. Like, how do you envision what the future is going to look like?
I am covered in 3D printing resin goo.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. It's all happened.
Okay, hang on. Were some of the questions not so interesting?
Well, some were more interesting than others.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough.
I'm keeping a list. I'll vote at the end.
Wait, we're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We can both vote. I don't know is the answer, but I have a few ideas. So I can tell you that what I think, my own personal view, is that modern is overtaking transition era. So I see more and more modern railroaders. I think small is overtaking big. So I see more and more, like we discussed, dioramas, modules, things like that. I think that figures are an area that have not been done well. So I'd certainly like to move. Look, I'm running out of animals. I mean, if you can think of more animals, send in your suggestions. But at some point, there are only so many HO scale budgies and parakeets that people need. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to start moving more towards figures because I think figures are really interesting. I'd like to move. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, have you thought about producing 3D scanned figures? Because
Absolutely.
I know there's a company in Europe that does that, and they do it very well.
Yes, I already have the scanner, or I have a scanner, and I've scanned my wife and one of my two boys. One of them won't stand still long enough, but I'm working on that.
I don't mean to interrupt, Bernard, but we need a 3D. The AML Nation needs a 3D scan of Lionel Strang. That we absolutely, that would sell like hotcakes. Especially,
I want to be the official 3D scanning producer.
Awesome, that's it right there.
The AML Nation.
Yes, because if we had Lionel, if you would sell the Lionel AML Nation 3D figure O scale, those would sell like hotcakes.
Well, the funny thing is that when this whole thing, so I started a year ago. I bought the printer in February. I started playing in March, and the company was born in April. So the whole thing kind of started pre/early days of COVID. So I had this great concept that I was going to go around and scan everybody I saw. And then, of course, it's hard to scan people when you go to lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as it's safe to scan people again, Lionel, I would love to scan you.
That's great. We have all these AML characters like Spoon and Hard Part and all these guys that need to be scanned so we can start our collection of the AML Nation figurines.
Hold it. Need it, want it, got it.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, though, because my second figure I mentioned was the Hound Dog.
Mm-hmm.
The Hound Dog is actually a scan. So my parents have an old, probably 100-year-old bronze dog statue that I've always liked. And anybody who has, one of the latest iPhones now has a scanner in their pocket. So you can, here's a top tip, you can actually go out and scan things with your iPhone and turn them into 3D prints. Now, it's not that easy. There's a lot of cleanup and work associated with it. But the technology's there. You've got the bare essentials. Mm-hmm. So I scanned this 100-year-old bronze statue, and that's what became the Hound Dog on the website that I'm selling.
Mm-hmm.
So very we will be able to go out and scan things. I mean, we basically have, Honey, I Shrunk we have the shrink ray in our pocket, and we'll be able to sort of, as time goes on, scan it, shrink it, put it on the layout.
That's basically what Rapido Trains is doing there in a much more technical form, but they're going out and they're literally scanning like they scan the buses that they did, and they literally scan them and make them as exact as possible.
And the amazing thing is you've got that technology in your pocket right now.
Yeah.
Now, it's not at the same quality, but I mean, when you're printing it out, 17 millimeters high, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I like the figure. I think I like the figures. I mean, I like all. I kind of. I'm very. I like the guy on the ATV. That's pretty cool. But I'm with Scott. I think the figures, these guys working on hanging off the cars and stuff like that, they're very, very cool. Like the one guy hanging off the freight car, the ladder. I think that's a great addition to anybody's layout, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've heard people are starting to incorporate those into operations. So just as some guys have the padlock, on the fascia that you have to unlock to simulate, real operations. Some people are actually saying, okay, well, we're going to have a guy on the back of a box car and it's going to be backing up, and that's part of our operation scheme.
Well, that's exactly what I do on my layout. Is I have what I call a riding conductor, and it's a figure that has I use micro neodymium magnets on the cars, and and then the figure has a little metal plate on one of his feet, and so the figure attaches to the cars, and that way you can have more play value in your operations, realistic play value, because you actually have a conductor that moves on and off the cars.
That is a great idea.
Yeah. So that's what makes it a lot more engaging and fun, especially when, like you said, Bernard, the hobby's moving towards smaller layouts, even though there's always going to be a place for the big full-size layouts. I know a lot of guys who are into the full-scale operations. They get upset sometimes when they hear us talk about, the hobby's moving to smaller, because they love the big-time operations. I think there's always going to be those guys. So we don't, people who want their long train fixes are always going to have avenues to get that. But the smaller is becoming more prevalent. And then in my shameless plug for like the protothrottle is things like the protothrottle and riding conductors, it slows down operations to make them hyper realistic so people can enjoy that type of operation on their smaller layouts, which is really, really cool.
I've had so many people. Sorry, Bernard, to take away from but I'm sure you don't mind. You seem like a very giving individual. I've had so many people, Scott, tell me exactly that about the protothrottle, as how much it enhances operations, and if you have a smaller layout, it just brings the whole thing to life.
Right. It extends. It makes a small layout actually bigger.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a fair statement. I mean, you're right. I don't think large layouts are ever going to go away. They'll always be built. There'll always be people building them. They're a great part of the hobby, and everybody loves to see a well-done large layout. But is this a fair statement that smaller layouts are becoming more acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
Is that maybe a way we should say it?
I started with a 4x8, and I built it 7 years ago. So I'm late to the model railroad hobby. So I built my 4x8, and I built it probably in a month or two. And I got it just to the point where the track was down and I was starting scenery. And I immediately added a 6-foot by 2-foot extension because I read about staging. And then I added another extension onto that because they said whatever amount of staging you have, double it. And then it became a 30-foot length of a wall. And then I ripped everything out and built a full layout. And now I've got a basement-sized layout in a room that's basically 30 feet by 10 feet. And then 2 other rooms that it goes through. And now I'm thinking about, since I don't have time to get to that, whether I should then go back to a 2-foot by 4-foot module. So I've come full circle.
Right.
Yeah.
So when did you get into the hobby?
7 years ago. 7 years ago, funny story. I'd always wanted a layout.
Before you go on, I'm sure the story is funny, but basically the way we do it here is Scott and I will tell the story, and then we'll decide if it was funny or not.
Fair enough. So here's the story that might be mildly humorous. You can vote. 7 years ago, my wife announced that she was going to go to London, England with a girlfriend of hers to celebrate her girlfriend's 40th birthday. And I was left at home for 2 weeks, call it, with my then 7-year-old and 5-year-old. And I'm like, oh, really? And she announced that she'd already bought the tickets and that it was happening. Hey, he's laughing. That's a good sign. And that there was nothing I could do about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if that's the way we're playing the game, it's fine. Don't be surprised if when you come back after that 2 weeks, you find the basement demolished, holes through the wall, and a layout built.
Exactly.
So, because if we get to do what we want to do, then it's a perfect opportunity for me to do what I wanted to do. So her trip to London, England for 2 weeks led to me saying, okay, the basement will be radically transformed when you're back. And it's been mutually assured destruction ever since.
So were you interested in the hobby before that?
I'm a recovering graphic designer. So 7 years ago, I had stopped my own graphic design business and I was working for a paper company. And I did the job for numerous reasons. I had young kids and I'd heard about this wonderful thing called health benefits. And I figured, I was in my mid 40s and I thought if I don't jump back into the corporate world now, I never will. So I made the jump from self-employment to working for the man. And I missed the creative element of graphic design. Graphic design is very hands-on. So the model railroad layout was an opportunity for me to create something fun. So it's funny. I wasn't originally a train guy. I was a let's build a layout kind of guy. And then, of course, as you do that, you become a train guy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But so you knew of the hobby before this? Before
I knew of the hobby. I did have a 4x8 layout when I was 8 years old, and I think it lasted maybe a year.
Okay.
My dad built it, and I don't think either of us showed much interest after that.
So
And it's funny. I can't. Well, it's not funny. It's ironic. It's interesting. I can't really remember. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that sort of rode his bike to the side of the tracks,
right.
Every day after school. Like I'm trying to. I mean, I live in downtown Toronto, and I'm searching my memory and my photographs for anything that resembles a train, in the mid 80s. And it wasn't really a part of my life, but it's become a wonderful creative outlet and a fantastic passion.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what it becomes. So anybody that's interested, on his Facebook page, Bernard's Facebook page for his railroad, the Quebec Gatineau Railway, is QGRY in HO scale. QGRY in HO scale. So you put that in Facebook search and you'll come up with his page. Now, why can't everybody have a short Facebook name like that? Like Chris Atkins, Tom Jacobs has the Cross Line Railroad, Reading Railroad in somewhere in Robisonia by Tom Jacobs on a sunny Sunday. And Chris Atkins has the HO Sheridan West that's in Texas, but he actually models Western Pacific. And these guys have these gigantic Facebook names, and here you are. You have basically 12 letters. That's made up your. It's excellent. So why
Quebec Gatineau Railway in HO scale? It's what it is.
Yeah, but so why Quebec Gatineau Railway? How'd you get interested in that?
Well, that's because of the paper mill I was working for. So I was working for a paper company. I was there. It wasn't a big jump to go from a graphic designer to a paper sales rep. So I was using a lot of a paper, and they asked me if I would take that paper out and rep it to other graphic design agencies. So I took my knowledge in the graphic design community and went to work for a Canadian paper company. And the paper mill was located just north of Montreal in a place called Saint-Jérôme, Quebec. And the paper mill was rail served by the Quebec Gatineau. So I'd see these beautiful orange and black engines come to the mill to do their work. And I think coincidentally about the same time, Atlas came out with Quebec Gatineau Railway engines. So I could have the HO scale version of what I was familiar seeing in northern Quebec or in north of Montreal, and that sort of checked the boxes for me.
Okay, cool. And
I mean, I love short lines. I
Yeah,
find
yeah.
short lines fascinating. I mean, it's that the last mile for me is where the real railroading takes place.
No, for sure. I
I'll
mean,
probably get in trouble for saying that, but I didn't want to run unit trains. I wanted to do switching.
yeah.
Mhm.
And well, I mean, when Scott and I first started talking, I mean, he made me aware of, the Iowa Interstate Railroad, which is a great railroad. And I mean, the North America is just full of these little private short line railroads. And I know a lot of them are owned by Genesee and Wyoming, but they're still individual railroads. And there's just a ton. It's not all of the big five. There is a ton of railroading after you get off the class one railroads.
And I was
Mhm.
starting from scratch. I was starting from zero skills. So the fact that the railroad engine existed and the fact that Genesee and Wyoming swaps out power meant that I could buy a Huron Central or I could buy, any of the other orange and black engines
Right.
and run them on my semi-prototypical railroad.
Yeah. And I mean, you made a lot of headway in 7 years. I mean, it's pretty,
Uh,
you know.
Debatable.
So let me ask both of you guys now, and let's get to my favorite question. We might as well. I mean, isn't this hobby just going nuts now? Scott, like, isn't this hobby like basically every time we talk, aren't you more blown away? Isn't your hair more blown back now than it was 6 months ago by how the hobby's expanding and growing?
I like to think so because, I mean, there's others who have their hand on the pulse more than me, but I think the hobby's so engaging. There's so much to do in this hobby. It's from planning to planning and design to electronics to woodworking to scene construction. Similar to people who are in the fine arts, like with plays and that sort of thing. Then you have the play value with actually operating the trains, whether you do it just for fun or you do it realistically. And then you get into all the minutia of not just MiniPrints, but like weathering cars or detailing locomotives. And then on top of that, you look at DCC with the sound, and then you've got JT Burke producing these incredible speakers. I mean, it's endless, the fascination with it all.
Yeah, it is. It's just endless of what you can do and the possibilities. And I mean, Bernard, like I know your hair's kind of blown back by this whole adventure over the last year, but could you have ever imagined where you are?
Never. It's I love this hobby so much for exactly the reason Scott said. It's like 7 or 8 hobbies in one, and it's perfect for people who are distracted by squirrels, because one day I'm programming an Arduino. The next day I'm trying to figure out basic wiring 101. The day after that I'm mixing grout and paint and ground goop. I mean, there's so many different elements to this that you can never get bored. You can never be finished.
Mm-hmm. And to add to that too, and I almost forgot about this, and Lionel, this is one of your talking points, is all the relationships. As I started to get in, as I started to promote the hobby product, the throttle, we've gone to a lot of RPM meets, a lot of shows, and the relationships you develop. I mean, these are lifelong relationships, and they're so enjoyable because they fall all within our wheelhouse of enthusiasm. So we get together with friends in the hobby, and it's like there's nothing else like it. It's so enjoyable.
It is. It's so enjoyable. So all right. If we talk to you again in a year, if Bernie, what's MiniPrints going to be like a year from now?
He'll sell it for $1 million.
Well, there may or may not be milk crates and baseball teams.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
I don't know what it'll be a year from now. I mean, I would like to think that it would continue to grow. I'd be interested in being known as the place to go for figures. Maybe there'll be some painted options. Maybe there'll be some other, maybe there's some figure lines that I can incorporate into my own work. Maybe there's a possibility to look at, other designs, other companies. Maybe I'll chuck it all and go work on my layout. Who knows? Only time will tell.
It's interesting. I'm looking at some of your photos, Bernard, on your site, and you've got all the details you're doing for ITLA, and you could easily, like you just said, you could easily expand into those areas where you're supporting other manufacturers and also even other sectors in the market. Like there's a lot of crafters who get into miniatures.
Yep.
I mean, you're primarily servicing the model railroad group, but heavens, this could be expandable if you wanted it to be. You probably, I don't know if you would, that'd be a lot of work, but you could expand it into just miniatures in general, and you could see just unbelievable growth. Probably too much.
Well, that's the thing. It's got to be fun, right? So and that you've hit the nail on the head. It's what do you want to be when you grow up? And I want to work on my model railroad. I want to have fun. Somehow this beaver turned into a website, and the website turned into orders. So do I want to grow it? I don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I want to have fun. I want to produce a quality product. I'm itching to get out to shows and meet people because, like you guys said, that's the fun part. I miss shows.
Yes.
I have developed some fantastic friendships in this hobby. I love operating on layouts, and I've had some fantastic opportunities to operate on some fantastic layouts. So I don't want to lose that. The goal here is not to, it's a mini company, and it's called MiniPrints. So the goal is not necessarily to create, a big company.
Right.
It's to have some fun, do good work, and take it one step at a time.
That's great. And to go along with having fun, as I'm looking through your photos, others will want to search this out, Lionel. He's got a photo of a beaver dam with a dish, like a TV dish coming off the dam, and it says, and the beaver's there watching his Leave It to Beaver reruns.
And on the theory that there is a prototype for everything, that is 100% prototypical. You will find people have put Bell Express View satellite dishes on beaver lodges all over Canada. So if you Google that, it's 100% prototypical.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's hilarious. The photo's awesome. Is that on your layout?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So once again, where do I find, you said you have a Facebook page on your layout? I didn't catch what you said, Lionel, in terms of the address.
I tried to say it as slow as possible because I knew you were listening. Oh, man.
Well, Lionel, I can make it easy for you if you want.
I'm sorry, Scott. That was...
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's all good.
Hey, Lionel.
Yes, sir.
If you go to the About Us page,
right,
on the MiniPrints website,
okay,
it links to my Quebec Gatineau in HO scale WordPress blog.
Oh, okay, under About.
Yeah, I'm a model railroader too, and I model Quebec Gatineau shortline in HO scale.
Yep.
You can read about my adventures in the hobby. Yeah,
there it is.
So that'll give you a little bit of flavor if you're interested in the sort of, what the layout looks like, and it's, once again, you can't do it all, right? So if you're printing, you're not blogging. So
it's going to be interesting to see how what direction you go, because I've actually had an interesting. We'll just we'll stop after this, but this is another great topic. I actually have had an interesting discussion with my buddy Stephen Atwell, who is the owner of Midwest Model Railroad. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to poke you, Scott. Stephen Atwell is the owner of Midwest Model Railroad in Independence, Missouri, and he has like a 9,000 square foot store. He sells. He puts a sticker, an AML sticker, on every box, And we started doing that sometime around last November. And so far, I've had to buy 16,000 stickers. That's how much
There you go.
That's how much stuff he sends out. Isn't that a cool idea, Bernard? I get manufacturers to put an AML sticker on the side of every box that they send out.
Have you seen the MiniPrints box? Sticker would look good on it.
I know, wouldn't it?
It would.
Would you be interested in doing that?
Of course.
Perfect.
Always.
That would be awesome. I'd be very much appreciative. So anyway, I got two things to say. So I better go with this. So I wrote this note down. He says, poke Scott Thornton with a stick. So I'm going to bring this up on the air.
Ouch.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to bring this up on the air. I don't expect you to respond because it's a business and you guys are, I respect that. But he's desperate to sell proto throttles in his store. And he's like, and he has a first class operation. You should go to Midwest Model Railroad in Independence, Missouri. I think best I can figure, he's about the fourth largest online retailer in the country. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing how much growth he's had.
Oh yeah, spectacular. And he's desperate to sell the proto throttle at Midwest Model Railroad. So you guys need to consider that. Although I don't want to be, I'm just telling you. How about that?
No, I appreciate it. No, definitely pass it on to the partners.
Okay. So what was I going to ask? I was going to ask a really good question. Now I can't remember what it was. Oh, well.
It's okay. It happens when we all get old.
Yeah, exactly.
I forget about 10 to 20 things every day. I go to my wife, who has a memory like a steel trap. She can remember everything. It's like, oh yeah, what did I forget this day, honey? She'll tell me. It's all good.
How old are you now, Scott?
I'm going to be 60 in 2 weeks.
Are you really? We got to have a party. We need to have a party. You make sure you let me know.
Yeah.
So by the time you listen to this, you'll be 60.
I will. Yes. My family is all I know is they're planning something sneaky. So
there you go.
I have that to look forward to, because it ends in a 0 and I might not be around for the next 0. So I got to take advantage.
Well, if I can be around. Seriously, you should go see a doctor.
Yeah, go to my psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Help me. There's no hope.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Thornton. There's no hope for you. Okay.
I'm thinking of starting a 3D printing business.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Oh, then they put you in a whole new category of mental health problems.
I know that is. I shouldn't bring it up, but I'll just tell this quick story because you made me think of it. The best part, if there was a good part, the best part of my whole cancer thing and the whole 9 yards and how bad it was in the early days. The guy insisted that I had to go see a psychiatrist because of this nasty medicine. Frankly, they were afraid I was going to, do something drastic. And because it was so difficult, they thought it was anyways. And here I am 6 years. I have literally driven her crazy.
the psychiatrist or psychologist? Yeah.
The psychiatrist.
You're a special case.
Yeah, I never would have gone to see a psychiatrist in my life. I'd never been in my life. It became the guy insisted because I was on this experimental medicine. He said, you got to see a psychiatrist because we just want you to. And I refused, and finally I agreed. And now it's like 6 years or 5 years later, and I've absolutely driven her crazy. She's just
you know what? I can just envision you coming into the office and she's sitting down, and after the little bit of introductions, she goes, "Now, Lionel, what are you passionate about?"
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm passionate about model railroading. Model railroading, that's interesting. What's involved with model railroading? Oh, we build small little miniature trains and we run them around in a circle. And she goes, "Okay, get me the chief. This guy's got real problems, and we need to get the straitjacket quick."
I have literally I'm slowly driving her nuts. That's literally. Sorry, Scott, can you give out the email address?
Certainly. Our email address is Modeler's Life. Modelers, with one L, like Elegoo Mars, and not two L's like Helen.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
modelerslife@gmail.com. And we have a website, a modelerslife.com, with lots of really, really good stuff on there.
That's right. And if you go there and you click on the picture of Bruce the moderately agitated at mailboy in a particularly agitated state, you can automatically send an email. All you got to do is fill in the text. You don't even have to remember the address.
And that's an awesome photo of Bruce.
It is.
He definitely looks agitated.
Yeah. And and on our website, we should put you on the supporting crew page, Scott. You should have a spot there because you're on here lots and lots. And we got to do another interview with you. I want to talk to you about all the stuff. You put some of the best tips and things on your Facebook page. I'm telling you, Bernard, Scott is one of the best model railroaders going.
Absolutely. A good friend of mine, Trevor Marshall, when I first started the business out, said, "Oh, this is the guy. This is the guy. He's got to put your stuff on the layout." And I said, "You know what? I just sent him some pelicans."
Yeah, I already found you, Bernard.
Yep.
I already was all over it.
Well, you know, interesting story, Bernard. When Scott and his wife traveled to Toronto because he was doing a presentation for Train Masters TV, one of the things he absolutely had to do was have a social time with Trevor Marshall and have dinner with Trevor Marshall. Me, he didn't even give me a text. But no,
Wow.
with Trevor, he was all over Trevor. Him and Trevor were best buds, and they were skipping up and down Yonge Street together, and they went to the Ontario Science Center together. And they went up to the CN Tower together. Me,
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah.
Well, we can all go visit Trevor in Saskatoon.
Yes. He's up there in the cold part now, you know.
Oh, he moved to Saskatoon, did he?
He did?
Yep, he did. He said, enough of this high city life. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Jim Hedeker from Model Railroader he did a clinic there once at a convention, and he described Saskatoon as you get to the end of Main Street, there's a Petro can there, and then there's nothing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's up there.
It's up there,
Yeah.
man.
But
it's a dry cold. Uh-huh.
Yes. The dry cold.
Like, who cares? It's 100 below zero. I don't care if it's dry or humid or whatever. I'm freezing.
Oh gosh, yeah. You're up there with the Eskimo parkas on, and
yeah.
No, it's all good. But Lionel, you know, I want to account for my sin, and the next time we're together, which will be very soon, I hope, because the shows are going to start opening up, and then I have you on my list. We're going to go out. I'm going to buy you dinner, and we're going to have a great time.
Yeah. So, Bernard, I don't know if you know this story. So one of my first encounters with Scott is back in 2018 at the Kansas City National Convention. We had the very first really AML dinner. There was like 25 of us there, and we were in this restaurant not far from Union Station. This beautiful restaurant, great restaurant, you know, typical Kansas City steakhouse. And we're sitting down. We're all sitting down. And we're just getting to the beginning of having our meal and everything. And all of a sudden, in bursts into the room, and this guy goes, "Hey, I'm here. I'm Scott, the proto throttle guy."
I crashed your party. Lionel was just looking at me with that, you know, that deer in the headlight stare, because right when I show up to jaw with him just for a few minutes, that's right when his meal was delivered. He was a little distracted. He's like, "Get the blank out of here. I want to eat my meal. Here am I." Oh, you know.
So let's put in a plug for Iowa Scaled Engineering, because they make the proto throttle, which is spectacular. And Mike Peterson and Nathan Holmes have always been very, very decent guys to me. And they make tons of. What's the most exciting thing Iowa Scaled Engineering's making lately?
They just came out with a new product called the Motorman. It's an automatic reversing unit that has more features than just going back and forth. Like, you can automate your train to go back and forth with their very robust IR sensors that you can put one on each side of your point-to-point layout and have your train move back and forth. I've got one on mine. It works great. And they're coming out with a they're in the beta stage now with the new crossing signal system, so that's coming. And they're creative guys. They're coming up with other things. Michael is, he's got the grain belt models, and that's going really well for him. And I think he's got more ideas to add more details into there. And we're coming out with they just came out with a new firmware update for the proto throttle, which includes an air pressure test feature, which is really cool. So yeah, they're doing a lot of neat things.
Okay, cool. And do you promise that we can do another episode with you, because there's lots of stuff on your page I want to talk about?
Yeah, and we can also do another episode where we can talk about graphic designers who flame out, spectacularly in their careers. And you can invite Bernard back, and we can all lament about the graphic design industry.
Oh, how about this for an idea, Bernard?
Yes.
When I get Scott on to have an update on all the things that's happening in the world of Scott Thornton, how about you being the co-host?
Oh, I've got a promotion already. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. He'll be pushing those green shrimp on me, though, and I don't think I'm going to like that.
I will study up.
I like green shrimp. Like green eggs and ham,
Really?
Shrimp.
You like green shrimp?
No, I'm just kidding.
No.
That's a joke.
Oh, is that a joke? Oh, okay.
I wouldn't come near green shrimp. Are you kidding?
No, you like the green lobsters.
Yes, I like the green lobster livers, or whatever the heck those things were. Good gracious, Granny, stay away from those. They'll kill you off.
Okay, so I think we've pretty much done everything. Have we? We've talked. Oh yeah, and if you want to get your model, your AML swag, your Modeler's Life swag, you just go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. And you just go there and you go across the navigation bar and click on AML, and boom, you're open into a wonderland of AML merchandise, like hats and hoodies and mugs and T-shirts of all sorts. And people are always stopping by there to pick up whatever they desperately need to make. The T-shirts are good enough you could wear them to a wedding.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Life fulfilling. My all-time favorite piece of swag that you produced is the Fighting Socks sticker.
Oh, yeah.
That was my all-time favorite. That thing is great.
Well, remind me, and I'll send you some more.
Well, I've already got like 3 or 4 of them.
Well,
you sent me a whole bunch.
All right. Well, I'll send you some more.
Okay, I'll pass them out.
Yeah, there you go. Pass them out. And let's not forget. So now we have. We'll see how this goes, Bernard. We'll see how this feels for you. Will this be a test? Midwest Model Railroad puts a AML sticker on every package. Jim Sacco from City Classics does it. JL Innovative out there in Salamanca, New York, with Chris Costello, they put one on their packages. Adam Pinellas, he puts one on his precision scale models. And Bernard, would you like me to include you in that list?
I would be honored.
And by the time you hear this, every package that leaves MiniPrints will have an AML sticker. So Bernard, how many stickers do you think you'll put on the box?
I'll get back to you with the sales forecast after this.
Yes.
Right.
We're graphic designers, and we're kindred spirits, Bernard, because he did the same to me. How many do you think? How many do you think you're going to sell?
Well, we'll wrap it up in the licensing for the 3D scanned Lionel.
There you go.
That's the best idea of this whole podcast. I want an O scale Lionel Strang
standing on a milk crate.
Yes. Perfect. It's got to be done. Absolutely. We want to collect all the characters from the AML nation.
Yeah, there you go. Collect them all. Yeah. Swap them, trade them with your friends. Yeah. So, do you know what to say at the end of this, Bernard?
I do.
All right. Well, Bernard, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say.
I don't know what to say.
Woo! Oh, that's a good. Yeah, that's great.
Happy
I
rail.
thought, I
Happy.
thought we were. Oh, I thought we were doing 7 out of 10 woodland creatures.
No, that's for the episodes, and this is an episode. This will be like episode 170 something.
Oh.
Right? This is.
It's okay, Bernard. You're not the first.
I
to
was.
choke. You're not the first to choke.
I was going to go for like 7 out of 10 Canadian beavers or woodland creatures or.
That would have been great. But
Yeah.
Oh
man.
okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So what's this? The happy trails to you?
Yeah. This is happy rails to you.
Oh, happy mini rails to you.
No, just happy rails. You can't. This is I've been very definite for the 170 plus episodes. It's happy rails. There's
Sorry,
no.
just say happy rails to you.
Yeah. There's no singing. There's no interpretation. It's just happy rails to you.
Yeah.
Happy rails to you.
And
Adam Pinellas tried to sing one time.
yeah, that was.
It's a no-go. Are we still Are we still friends?
Probably not, but
Oh man, it was going so well.
but we'll drag you in when we do when we talk to Scott again. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
And then you can do this, Scott. Let's establish now that at the end of your next interview that Bernard can be the one that says 6 out of 10 whatevers.
Yeah, 6 out of 10 beaver makers or whatever he was going to say.
Woodland creatures.
Oh, woodland creatures.
And you know what? Between now and then, Bernard.
Yes.
You can practice it many times.
Many times.
Awesome.
Are you ready? Would you like to try again?
I would like a second chance.
Okay. Well, Bernard, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say...
Happy rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
Don't worry about screwing it up the first time because it's always Kelly's fault. Anyways.
Good to know.
Yeah. Whatever goes wrong is Kelly's fault, whether he's here or not.